Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Om Gnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya. Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Yeah, so we all know the background, so I'm just going to go into this chapter directly. Text 1. Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. So Prahlad Maharaj's standard of devotional service is very, very high. Hmm. So he's saying one is sufficiently intelligent. He engages in devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Why? Because this slight amount of sincere devotional service will bring us back to bhakti even in the next life, even if you are not able to continue complete this life. So see, these are the keywords. Sufficiently intelligent, practice devotional service, giving up all other engagements, sincere devotional service. This so we should note when we are reading these words, we should fix in our heads, right? So that then we won't forget them. The human form of life affords one a chance to return home, back to Godhead. Therefore, every living entity, especially in the human form of life, must engage in devotional service to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. This devotional service is natural because Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the most beloved, the master of the soul, and the well wisher of all other living entities. So Krishna has already said this in Bhagavad Gita. So we should note this point. This devotional service is natural. What is not natural to us? Material sense gratification is not natural. It's artificial. Devotional service is natural. So now we have hooked on to something which is not natural to us. Hmm. So that is our deceased condition. My dear friends born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. We should always remember this. We should not endeavor for happiness, material happiness, because it will actually come. It will actually come because it is just a result of our past fruitive activities. So, whatever we have done, whatever we are destined, we will get that happiness. We don't have to go running behind it. Somehow, some of these things we can't, it just doesn't register in us. We think that it's all my endeavor in this life, which is which is the cause for happiness or distress in this life, which is completely not true. Maybe little bit of our activities in this life might be resulting in some result in the same life, but mostly it is just past fruitive activities. So when we are trying to get material happiness, we should just remember saying that we are in illusion. On one end, we are saying we want Krishna. On the other end, we are saying we want material happiness. No, that is okay. That is still okay. Kama sarva kama moksha kama udarati. Okay. So, but we should, even if we are wanting material happiness in this life, we should remember that it is not possible by our endeavor. So, which means that all our attempts for material happiness in this life are all futile because they're not going to result in happiness in this life. In case we engage in such activities and we accumulate some punya, then we have to come back again to enjoy it. Or in the pursuit of so called happiness, if we end up doing papa, then we have to come back to suffer that papa. But either way, it is not going to give us happiness or distress in this life. So it's simply a waste of time. Prahlad Maharaj says in the next verse, endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development, sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed, for they result only in a loss of time and energy with no actual profit. Because it's all directed towards the future. If one's endeavors are directed toward Krishna consciousness, one can surely attain the spiritual platform of self realization. There is no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development. So, engaging in economic development, one doesn't get self realization. And also because there's no result that is going to that's going to be obtained in this life. It's a loss of time and energy with no actual profit. Because we are really not interested in coming back in the next life. And we are doing things ignorantly, which is resulting, guaranteeing us a next life. Right? If anybody has any questions, comments, please interrupt because this will keep going on like this. So, therefore, while in yeah, somebody said something. No, okay. Therefore, while in material existence, bhavam ashritaha, a person fully competent to distinguish wrong from right, fully competent to distinguish wrong from right, must endeavor to achieve the highest goal of life as long as the body is stout and strong and is not embarrassed by dwindling. So before the body starts dwindling, we have to make sure that we have done sufficient progress. Right? Because when the body starts dwindling and is embarrassed, we can't do much. Hmm. So who will endeavor to achieve the highest goal of life is one who is competent to distinguish wrong from right. He will engage. And what is this wrong from right? Simply engaging on the platform this body is wrong. Endeavoring for achieving the ultimate goal is right. That's all. Every human being has a maximum duration of life of 100 years. So he's talking for Kali Yuga people. But for one who cannot control his senses, half of those years are completely lost. What the reason is, we can see later. But just see, one who cannot control his senses, half of this life is gone. Because at night he sleeps 12 hours, being covered by ignorance. Therefore, such a person has a lifetime of only 50 years. The tender age of childhood, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years. Similarly, in boyhood, engage in sporting and playing, one passes another 10 years. In this way, 20 years are wasted. Similarly, in old age, when one is invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years. So, out of technically 100 years, 40 gone, 20, 30, 40 gone, right? So, 60 remaining. In that 60, 50% is wasted in sleeping. So, 30 is remaining. One whose mind and senses are uncontrolled becomes increasingly attached to family life. So, that 30 remaining is in what? 50% of or 30% of that will be in Grahastha life. If you don't come out of Grihastha life, all the 100% of that 30 years will be in Grihastha life. Now, what happens in Grihastha life? One whose mind and senses are uncontrolled becomes increasingly attached to family life because of two reasons. Either because one has insatiable lusty desires. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that, and very strong illusion. Now, if somebody doesn't have desire to accumulate material things, they will be attached to people, which is due to very strong illusion. In such a, please note the word, mad man's life, the remaining years, which we calculated to be 30, are also wasted because even during those years, he cannot engage himself in devotional service. Now, for most of us, we possibly have this 30 years in our life, right? Of course, we may not sleep 12 hours. So maybe we'll sleep for 8 hours. We can take 30% of the remaining 60 years. So 18 years is gone. So basically around 30, yeah, 42 years left. In 42 years, if we continue to work all the time, we lose another 10 hours per day, which is another 50% is gone. So 20 years, yeah, 18 to 20 years is left, which is actually the time that is available for us to engage in devotional service. Now, that is provided we engage completely during that time in devotional service. What person to attach to household life due to being unable to control his senses can liberate himself, which means that if we are attached to household life, right, we are unable to control our senses, we cannot liberate ourselves. An attached householder is bound very strongly by ropes of affection for his family. Money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey, Prahlad Maharaj is saying. Therefore, who can give up the desire to accumulate money, especially in household life? Sarcastic statement in one way. In another way, saying don't stay in household life forever. Thieves, professional servants, and merchants try to acquire money even by risking their very dear lives. So to earn money, people even risk their lives. So who can stop? Who can give up this desire to accumulate money? How can a person who is most affectionate to his family, the core of his heart being always filled with their pictures, so graphic Prahlad Maharaj is. How can such a person give up their association? Just he's saying, see, core of their heart filled with their pictures. We are whenever we just always, pictures of meaning all our very dear ones are always in our heart. We're thinking about them. We are trying to, give them happiness, give them pleasure, etc., etc. How can such a person who is most affectionate, now who will get these pictures of family in the core of their heart? One who is most affectionate to family. When somebody is most affectionate to family, how can he give up their association? Why? He says, specifically a wife is always very kind and sympathetic and always pleases her husband in a solitary place. Who could give up the association of such a dear and affectionate wife? And to add to this, if the wife is beautiful, then it's even more bonding. Mm. Prabhupada Leelamrita, he says that Prabhupada was not happy with Radharani, his wife. Right? So then he tells his father, saying that, no, no, I'm planning to get married second time. And his father, Gormon, they very nicely advises him, saying that you are fortunate that you won't be attached to your wife. So take this as a blessing from Krishna. Mm. So being bound, and it's the same thing when whatever is being referred to as wife is for the man and man for the wife, mutual. Who could give up association with such a dear and affectionate wife? When, in one sense, if family life is relationship between husband and wife is strained, it's fortunate. Mm. fortunate situation so that we don't get attached. Of course, it's not that it has to be like that, but I'm just saying all situations can be seen as Anukulis Sankalpa, like Prabhupada's father, Sri Gaur Mohan De is was telling Prabhupada. Small children talk in broken language, very pleasing to hear. So this is mostly grandchildren, grandchildren, etc. And their affectionate father always thinks of their sweet words. Oh, so sweetly my son is talking. Oh, so sweetly my grandson is talking. How could he give up their association? One's elderly parents and one's sons and daughters are also very dear. A daughter is especially dear to her father. And while living at her husband's house, she's always in his mind. Who could give up that association? Aside from this, in household affairs, there are many decorated items of household furniture. There are also animals and servants. Who could give up such comforts? The attached householder is like a silkworm, which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out. Hmm? Weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out. This is our life. Simply for the satisfaction of two important senses, the genitals and the tongue. One is bound by material conditions. How can one escape? What a powerful word. Complete graphically describing life of a typical householder. One who is too attached like this. He cannot even understand that he is wasting his valuable life for the maintenance of his family. Mm. And we think that we should, work very hard to maintain our family. No, Prahlad Maharaj is saying simply wasting valuable life. He also fails to understand that the purpose of human life, a life suitable for realization of absolute truth, is being imperceptibly spoiled. So this is Prahlad Maharaj is advising people to not to get into Grihastha ashram, for those who can remain brahmacharis. Of course, for others, we have to, but we should not get too attached. He also fails to understand that the purpose of human life is being imperceptibly spoiled. Imperceptibly, we are not able to perceive it. It's just going. Yesterday went, today in many hours, in few hours, today will also go, tomorrow will also go, and very soon we will be at the fag end of our lifespan. However, he is very clearly attentive to seeing that not a single farthing is lost by mismanagement. Mm, These verses, they depict real, like perfect picture of Grihastha life. Everybody is so cleverly attentive to see that not even a single paisa is lost by mismanagement. Thus, although an attached person in material existence always suffers from threefold miseries, he does not develop a distaste for the way of material existence. This is so bewildering. Because he's so attached to material existence, even though he's suffering threefold miseries, he does not develop a distaste. Very few fortunate souls develop a distaste. If a person too attached to the duties of family maintenance is unable to control his senses, the core of his heart is immersed in how to accumulate money. Although he knows that one who takes the wealth of others will be punished by the law of the government and by the laws of Yamaraja after death, he continues cheating others to acquire money. Oh, my friends, sons of demons, in this material world, even those who are apparently advanced in education have the propensity to consider this is mine and that is for others. Which means that no, they're not really uh, knowledgeable or educated. Thus, they're always engaged in providing the necessities of life to their families in a limited conception of family life. A limited conception. This is my wife, my husband, my children, my family. That's all. Limited. Everybody else, let them go to hell. Just like uneducated cats and well, are there like educated cats and dogs? So it's a double this one. Uneducated cats and dogs. They're unable to take to spiritual knowledge. Instead, they're bewildered and overcome by ignorance. So attachment to family life is being thrashed. Prahlad Maharaj is just like thrashing the whole thought process. My dear friends, O sons of the demons, it is certain that no one bereft of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been able to liberate himself from material bondage at any time in any country. Rather, those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bound by the material laws. They're factually addicted to sense gratification, and their target is woman. Indeed, they're actually playthings in the hands of attractive women. Victimized by such a conception of life, they become surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren, and thus they're shackled to material bondage. Now, we might hear this and say, no, 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 we are not like this. Or, women might think and say, I'm not like this. Men might think and say, no, my wife is not like this. Mm. But actually, this is true. Because what we are trying to do is just to satisfy our own desires. And that is just being a plaything. That's all. Those who are very much addicted to this conception of life are called demons. Very much addicted. Therefore, although you are sons of demons, keep aloof from such persons and take shelter of the Supreme Person of God in Narayana, the origin of all the demigods, because the ultimate goal for the devotees of Narayana is liberation from the bondage of material existence. My dear sons of demons, Supreme Personality of God in Narayana is the original super soul, the father of all living entities. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing him. See, this is very, very nice. There are no impediments to pleasing him or worshipping him under any conditions, whether one be a child or an old man. That means, in whatever condition we are in, we can please the Supreme Lord. Mm. But the important part is to figure out how we can please him in our situation. This is where a lot of intelligence is required and surrender is required. Many times, devotees are bewildered. Mm. Say, okay, maybe I'm too stuck in material life, or I'm being dragged here and there. I have no time. But yeah, it's one condition, but we can still please the Supreme Lord even in that condition, and we should look out for those things. How to please? That is the trick. The relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Person of Godhead is always a fact, and therefore there's no difficulty in pleasing the Lord. So somebody who has absolutely no time. So the other day I was talking to a devotee, he said like, practically he's like, he doesn't have even more than 2 hours in a day for doing his sadhana, and it's throughout the year. So, so I was telling him saying that, okay, so there are two things. One is, if this is like not possible for you to change at all, obviously the first preference is to not have such a hectic life, because not just from a bhakti perspective, even from a material perspective, it's not good. It'll affect your health. It'll, you won't have time for your family, etc. Second, obviously, it affects your spiritual life, and you can't go on like this forever. So whether you want to be in a job like this. Second, mm, if there are no other options at this point of time, okay, um, pray, do whatever possible in whatever time you have, do bhakti, but pray to Krishna to give you a better situation. Uh, and three is basically offer your results to Krishna. So in these three things, we can still, yeah, last two things we can at least we can still please Krishna by trying to be sincere. All that is required for us to do in each and every situation of our life is to be sincere and serious and not get carried away by our situations. Life is like this, all kinds of ups and downs come, we experience these things. But as long as we remain sincere and serious in all conditions of our life, the Supreme Lord is pleased by us, pleased with us. He's seeing, yes, okay, this devotee is stuck because of his or her past karma, but okay, so, he's sincerely, seriously trying to please me. That's all is required, and then Krishna will give mercy, and then devotee can come out of that entanglement, binding. Mm. So it's very simple. We have to just try to remain sincere and serious in all situations, and then we will make tremendous progress, irrespective of what position. And that's why bhakti is so powerful. Uh, Bhakti is so powerful. That is why it says Thane Sthita. Okay, you be whatever position you are in, that's fine. But Try to be sincere and serious, and then very easily one can make progress, right? But if we are like, if we are happy with our money and we are spending and we are enjoying, and if yeah, that's the life of a demon. Like here, Prahlad
Mm.
Maharaj is saying, it's demoniac life. Trying to enjoy sense gratification is demoniac. And then, of course, we might not make progress. We'll find things life very difficult. Otherwise, life is not maybe so difficult. Sri Mataji, you had anything to say? Okay.
No, Prabhuji, sorry.
Okay, okay, no issues. So there's no difficulty. We should always remember this. There's no difficulty in pleasing the Lord in whatever situation we are in. We have to just open up our eyes to the reality. That's all. Supreme Person of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, who is infallible and indefatigable, is present in different forms of life, from the inert living beings, Thavara, such as plants, to Brahma, the foremost created living being. He is also present in the varieties of material creations and in material elements, the total material energy and the modes of material nature, as well as the unmanifested material nature and the false ego. So he is present in everything. Although he is one, he is present everywhere. And he is also the transcendental super soul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer in the cores of the hearts of all living entities. He is indicated as that which is pervaded and as the all pervading super soul. But actually, he cannot be indicated. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the supreme Sachidananda, being covered by the curtain of external energy. To the atheist, he appears non existent. Yeah, so the inconceivable position of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, my dear young friends born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. So, this is the key. This is the key, that we have to act in such a way that Supreme Lord will be satisfied. How do we know Supreme Lord will be satisfied? We should not speculate. We should know from Guru Sadhu Shastra how Supreme Lord will be satisfied and not speculate. I have told this multiple times. We should not speculate about this. We should be very clear about this path. And that is the reason, I keep highlighting this need for guidance, need to surrender to authority. Mm, the lack of surrender to authority results in different people doing their own things, and we can never go in one direction. We cannot have a single goal, right? So, um, so it's very, very important that we understand through authorities what we should do, how we can satisfy the Supreme Lord. Giving up your demoniac nature and act, give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well wishers. See, Hmm. And that we can do only if we give up this demoniac nature. And then only we can think about other living beings. Demoniac nature means self-centered. That's all. Simple. Only when we give up this self-centered nature, then we can think about other living entities, right? And today, most of us, we are just thinking about our own bhakti, right? How much are we thinking about other living entities? How much are we thinking about giving this to others, to new people? And bhakti is so simple. When we try to give it to others, our bhakti increases. Simple correlation. Nothing is unobtainable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Person of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes, the original source of everything. Nothing is unobtainable. Literally, we can get anything. Right? The Lord is the reservoir of unlimited spiritual qualities. For devotees, therefore, who are transcendental to the modes of material nature, what is the use of following the principles of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, which are all automatically obtainable under the influence of the modes of nature? So we should not bother about this dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We are devotees, we should not be worried about this dharma, artha, kama. We devotees always glorify the lotus feet of the Lord. And therefore, we need not ask for anything in terms of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Right? Do not bother about this dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We should just be engaged in glorifying the lotus feet of Lord. And it's almost like Prahlad Maharaj is speaking to us. We devotees, and we can see whether we belong to this we devotees class or not. And if we are engaging in terms of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, then we cannot call ourselves devotees. Dharma, artha, kama, these are described in the Vedas as Trivarga.
చూడండి.
Mataji, you have to mute yourself, please.
తాత is not.
Within these three categories are education and self-realization.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Ah,
Prabhu, how do we know that whether we are in struggling to achieve this dharma, artha, kama, moksha?
yeah, I mean, our single goal should be Krishna, pleasure of Krishna. If there is any other goal, then it will be one of these.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Within these three categories, dharma, artha, kama, are education and self-realization. Ritualistic ceremony is performed according to Vedic injunction, logic. So he's answering your question. Science of law and order, and the various means of earning one's livelihood. These are the external subject matters of studying the Vedas, and therefore I consider them material. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying even means of earning one's livelihood is material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu to be transcendental. So we should understand that is why even when we are engaging in our livelihood, while it might be required for us, but it is not still bhakti. When does it become bhakti? When we offer the result to Krishna. Then only it becomes bhakti. Till then it is material. Right? So Prahlad Maharaj is simply categorizing earning livelihood itself as material. No, we might have to reject Prahlad Maharaj's instructions also. Saying
So,
that this is too
Prabhu,
heavy. Mm,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
yeah.
A quick question. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah. As we go through these verses, so there is. I mean, I was reading Bhagavad Gita also. There is one verse that says, Krishna is saying that, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhyacha. So
Mhm.
basically, in that purport, Prabhupada is saying, yeah, I mean, practically no one can just purely do this devotional service, but I mean basically you while you are engaged in your day-to-day duties, so you can still remember Krishna, and you can still chant Hare Krishna within the mind and always engaged, right? So, and in these verses it's clearly saying that even doing your day-to-day duties, it is of no use,
Yeah.
and completely surrendered to the
Yes.
lotus feet of the
Yeah.
Lord. So, I mean, it's a little contradicting for me in
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah. So actually it took me many years to come to the conclusion of this. See, we should understand that when we are in the stage where we are, either attached or, we have inevitability of earning money, right? In that situation, we will try to follow what Krishna is telling Arjuna, right? So, yeah, uh, but the problem with that is the way of this earning, especially in Kali Yuga, is very, what can I say, distracting. It's very difficult to think about Krishna because I've gone through this life, right? Mm. So inevitably we will be majorly in material consciousness, right? So our only savior is how much money we are giving in Krishna's service. Uh, and I mean, I did this when I was earning. I did to, as much extent as it was possible practically for me. I used to use my Lakshmi in Krishna service because see, there is no other way. Yeah, okay, we have to earn, fine. Okay, we need money for living, fine. But if we are trying to hoard it, and if we are not trying to use it for Krishna, then it becomes a bondage, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And the other thing which is very, very important is a serious attempt to get out of all this ASAP, ASAP, right? So one of the things I tell people like is if you have money in your bank, you know, then there are ways by which we can get out of this working business, right? But of course, before doing that, we have to know if we can be meaningfully engaged in bhakti. And if we can be meaningfully engaged in bhakti, then we have enough money. Now, what is that enough money? Is not is a view which with faith in Krishna, with practicality in mind. So okay, let me break this down a little bit. For example, say today your life, your monthly expenses is X, mm, right? And so you will calculate saying that okay, for 100 years, say I will live, mm, mm, and I have to get so much money every month for my expenses. Now, of course, then the life transitions, and then our children grow up, and maybe their education and marriage. So maybe there is some amount for that fixed. That's it. That's all that is required. And medical expenses, you can have a insurance and maybe some amount of for emergency. Whatever visible, based on, for example, how healthy we are, etc., etc. Some visible calculations can be done, and then say, okay, now I have so much savings and I need so much money on a monthly basis. What should I do? And there are ways and means to solve for that in Kali Yuga, unlike previous ages. And that's it. We should have the confidence saying that now, okay, rest of it I'm depending on Krishna. I did a practical evaluation and this is what I think I require, right? And I have this much, from this much money, I can actually get this much amount on a monthly basis. So I am fine. In fact, I have a buffer of 10%, 20%, which is great. If that is your financial situation, then you should stop worrying about working. Then you should start worrying about how can I engage myself such that I can get engaged 24 hours in bhakti? What can I do? How should I, engage myself? And that's where the effort needs to go. It's not very difficult. It just requires faith in Krishna. Practically, it's not
Right.
very difficult, right? It just requires that faith, saying that, yeah, yeah, Krishna will take care. I've done my planning. Krishna will take care. See, which is true of our life even today, right? We are putting our effort, but we are depending on Krishna. Are we 100% sure that everything will go as we expect throughout our life? No, we are depending on Krishna. We have that faith. Now it's another level of faith. That's all.
Mhm.
So it just requires us to be in the association of those devotees who have that faith to see where that faith is coming from. I mean, is it blind? Can I also develop this faith? And absolutely, it's not whimsical. I mean, this I'm telling because uh, I can tell from my own life that I didn't do anything like it was not that because I was some very great devotee that I decided to give up my job, but it was a practical calculation which I did, and I felt that this is good enough, and then rest Krishna will take care. So that is important, and it is possible. It is practically possible in Kali Yuga. And especially I can say, I don't know, I mean, may not be specifically with respect to your case, but I know of so many people who've been, worked in the US for a few years and come back and they had decent saving to live a comfortable life in India with whatever they've saved. And it's not that we are going to eat into our savings. So there are various ways, right? Um, but we should have the faith. That's the primary thing. Where there's a will, there's a way. Um, so we should develop the desire and then Krishna will show the path. So it's very
Sure.
important for all working people to actually take this route. Somehow I see that there is too much of lack of trust in Krishna. Even I was advised by many people saying that, why are you doing this? I said like, what about Krishna? Is he in the picture or no? He's in the picture, but you have to be very practical. I said, yeah, I'm practical. To whatever extent I can see. I can't see the unseen, right? Or I can't see the future. But to whatever extent I can see, I am seeing. And that's all. The rest we have to depend on Krishna. If we always have to say, I have to be in control, that means that we are never surrendered. We never surrendered. And it's not like Krishna is not saying, not telling us, Krishna is saying Sarvadharman Parityaja. So more than anything else, we are trying to follow his instruction. And of course, see, these things have to have the blessings of a guru. So in case, you have a guru or you're sheltered or you're aspiring, then you have to discuss with that guru before taking such decisions. Right? So, but it is something that we should do. So the initial instructions in Bhagavad Gita are only for those who have not developed that level of faith. Ultimate instruction of Bhagavad Gita is Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Sarva Dharma means Grahastha Dharma also. Meaning this earning business also is part of that Sarva Dharma. But we will not read these verses this way, right? Because we will then, and we will not even speak this way because then we'll be forced to, then people will ask, saying that, did you do this? Have you done this? You are speaking like this. At least we should say, no, no, I have not done this, but I'm trying to do this, right? But I know that this is the tattva. This is the truth that Krishna is speaking here. He's not telling us to be like, stuck in grahastha life all our life. So it's important to note, at least the tattva we should know. Our ability or lack of ability of following something is a different thing. Is that okay? Can I continue?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah. These are the external subject matters, therefore I consider them material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu to be transcendental. Narayana, the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, formally explained this transcendental knowledge to the great sage Narada. Such knowledge is extremely difficult to understand without the mercy of a saintly person like Narada. Without the mercy of Prabhupada, we wouldn't have been able to understand. Today I am able to read this and explain, but that is just because I've read these purports so many times, read the underlying purport so many times, right? So, which means that it's just because of Prabhupada. If Prabhupada had not explained these verses, explained these concepts, topics to us, we wouldn't have been able to understand it at all. If it was just like I was reading this, for the first time in my life, I would have gone crazy. I would do it just impossible to understand. So without the mercy of a saintly person like Narada, but everyone who has taken shelter of Narada's disciplic succession can understand this confidential knowledge. But the important part is taking shelter. Prahlad Maharaj is not saying, but anyone who has heard from Narada's disciplic succession. No, he's not saying that. See, this choice of words, are very, very important. We just think like, it's just a one English sentence. No, it's not an English sentence. It's not about just simply hearing. It's about hearing in a sheltered, in a surrendered mood. So taking shelter, we have to take shelter, meaning take shelter means what? Like that is on top of our head. Like suppose it's raining, we have taken shelter of some, shop or some in this one. That means that we are being protected by that. We are so that means that those instructions, etc., should be protecting our life, should be guiding our life. Now that we saw, okay, there's a place to stand, it's raining, I will just walk out. I'll anyway go. Right? That is just hearing. Okay, I heard something. I'm not very bothered about putting into practice. I heard it, I leave it from this year and then moving. No, this is a process of taking shelter. Otherwise, we can't understand this confidential knowledge. We'll always be confused. I received this knowledge from the great saint Narada Muni, who is always engaged in devotional service. This knowledge, which is called Bhagavata Dharma, is fully scientific. It is based on logic and philosophy and is free from all material contamination. Okay, so with this chapter in Sons of Demons replied, Dear Prahlad, neither you nor we know any teacher or spiritual. They're saying, how did you get all this knowledge? We only know Shanda and Amarka for the sons of Shukracharya, and they haven't taught all this. So where did you get all this? And he says, like, you're always, for you especially, because you are son of a king, you always remain within the palace. Very difficult to associate with a great personality. And dear friend, most gentle one, would you kindly explain how it was possible for you to hear Narada? Kindly dispel our doubts. And then in the next chapter, uh, Prahlad Maharaj explains how his mother, father had gone to Mandara to do austerities. Indra comes and defeats the asuras and binds his mother, and then Narada Muni intervenes, tells him that Indra tells, no, no, there is a son of a demon in the womb of this lady, so I want to kill when she gives birth to the son, so I'm taking her. Narada Muni says, no, he's not He's a great devotee. And then I sent that forward from His Grace Shyam Sundar Prabhu, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, about how Hari Bhakti Vilas quotes from Narasimha Purana about the history of Narada, of Prahlada, that he was son of a Brahmana, Vasu Sharma, his name was Vasudeva, and he got attached to a prostitute, but being angry with her and fighting with her on the day of Narasimha Chaturdashi, he did a vrata. He followed a vow, and because of which he became a great devotee. So it's very, very important to be able to follow a vow. Of course, that description of that vow is very detailed set of things to be done. For us, minimum what Srila Prabhupada gave was fasting till dusk, and then celebrating festival of appearance of Narasimha Dev through Kirtan, Katha. Katha has to be heard. Very, very important. It's not just Kirtan and Abhishek. Katha has to be heard. Sufficient time for Katha. Everybody who is attending should understand the significance of Narasimha Dev, why he appeared, for whom he appeared, and then honor Prasadam. If somebody does this, then that is what is expected from ISKCON devotees. Of course, that particular vrata was recommended, being staying awake whole night, doing hearing chanting of the glories of Narasimhadev. But we have not been asked to do that, so we'll do whatever acharyas have asked us to do, and that will give us the result. We don't have to worry. Whatever our acharyas have given is complete and perfect. So, okay. So maybe I don't know how many of you have time. So we can discuss maybe for another 15-20 minutes appearance of Narasimha Dev. How is everybody placed?
Yes,
It's okay. Maybe I'll continue for another 15-20 minutes. Those who are busy and want to drop off can do so. Right? Because appearance of Narasimha Dev. So we will quickly, because the first few verses only Narasimha Dev appears. Yeah, Vinod Prabhu.
sorry, Prabhu. It was a mistake.
No issues. Narada Muni continued. All the sons of the demons appreciated the transcendental instructions of Prahlad Maharaj and took them very seriously. They rejected the materialistic instructions given by the teacher Shanda and Amarka. See, this is an indication of surrender. I was telling somebody saying that, if you are sincerely and surrendered, and we hear what Prabhupada has to speak, right? Then we can come to this platform. We can come to this platform of pure devotion. But our challenge is we are not serious. Actually, this word serious, many years back I read this word and just stuck in my head, right? This word serious actually, it's so important. Just think about this, right? Anything that we are trying to do, we should do it seriously, meaning we are ready to put everything behind it. We should be ready to put everything behind it. And when we take these transcendental instructions seriously, automatically it pulls us out of material, uh, attach, whatever entanglement. So we should never forget this word serious. Serious doesn't necessarily mean that we are like straight faced all the time. No, serious, internal, it is Hira, right? We are grave. We should be grave in terms of what we are doing, why we are doing. Externally, we can be nice, we can be smiling, we can be cutting jokes, etc. That's different. But internally, we have to have that mood of seriousness. When Shanda and Amarka, the sons of Shukracharya, observed that all the students, sons of demons, were becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness because of association of Prahlad Maharaj, they were afraid. They approached the king of demons and described the situation as it was. When Hiranyakashipu understood the entire situation, he was extremely angry, so much so that his body trembled as he finally decided to kill his son Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu was by nature very cruel, and feeling insulted, he began hissing like a snake trampled upon by someone's foot. His son Prahlada was peaceful, mild, and gentle. His senses were under control, and he stood before Hiranyakashipu with folded hands. Can we just imagine this? Hiranyakashipu is seething with anger, and Prahlada, peaceful, mild, and gentle, senses under control, stood with folded hands. According to Prahlad's age and behavior, he was not to be chastised. Yet with staring crooked eyes, Hiranyakashipu rebuked him with the following harsh words: "O most impudent, most unintelligent disruptor of the family, O lowest of mankind, you violated my power to rule you." See, this is the heart of material life. We are always wanting to rule over somebody, and when our power is violated, we become angry like Hiranyakashipu. Hmm. So we are all little Hiranyakashipus. In our own way, we are trying to gain control. And therefore, you are an obstinate fool. Today I shall send you to the place of Yamaraj. My son Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I am angry, all the planets of the three worlds tremble along with their chief rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so? This rascal is Prabhupada's addition. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you? Again, this is where Hiranyakashipu is stuck. Overstep my power to rule you. So it is his willingness to control each and every jiva. Everybody is fearing me and you are overruling me. You're overstepping my power to rule you. Prahlad Maharaj said, "My dear king, the source of my strength of which you are asking is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. Is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength, whether moving or not moving, superior or inferior. Everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Controller and Time Factor, is the power of the senses, the power of the mind, the power of the body, and the vital force of the senses. See, just look at this again graphic. We have senses, we have mind, we have body. We are using that power for whatever we want to do, but the power is actually Krishna. We are misusing. His influence is unlimited. He's the best of living entities, the controller of the three modes of material nature. By his own power, he creates this cosmic manifestation, maintains it, and annihilates it. My dear father, please give up your demoniac mentality. Do not discriminate in your heart between enemies and friends. We also do this. Make your mind equipoised toward everyone. Except for the uncontrolled and misguided mind, there is no enemy within this world. If at all we are looking at other people in connection with us and saying this person is my enemy, or we should just remember it's just the uncontrolled and misguided mind that is our enemy. There is nobody else who is our enemy. When one sees everyone on the platform of equality, one then comes to the position of worshipping the Lord perfectly. We discussed this yesterday also, or no, sometime. Kanishtadhikari Bhakta goes to the temple, is happy with the worship of the Lord, but he doesn't see every jiva equally. He doesn't recognize devotees. Even if we recognize devotees and respect them, but we don't see all jivas on the platform of equality, then our worship of the Lord is imperfect and we don't make progress. So if we are doing any kind of jiva himsa, we can't make progress. We'll get stuck. In former times, there were many fools like you. Allah Maharaj is talking to his father. Former times, there were many fools like you who did not conquer the six enemies that steal away the wealth of the body. These fools were very proud, thinking, I have conquered all enemies in all directions. But if a person is victorious over the six enemies and is equipoised toward all living entities, for him there are no enemies. So, what is the question of conquering enemies? There are no enemies at all. Enemies are merely imagined by one in ignorance. Hiranyakashipu replied, You rascal, you're trying to minimize my value as if you are better than me at controlling the senses. This is over intelligent. I can therefore understand that your desire to die at my hands. For this kind of nonsensical talk is indulged in by those about to die. O most unfortunate Prahlada, you always describe a supreme being other than me, a supreme being who is above everything. who is the controller of everyone and who is all pervading. But where is he? If he's everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar? Because you're speaking so much nonsense. I shall now sever your head from your body. Now let me see your most worshipable God come to protect you. I want to see it. Being obsessed with anger, Hiranyakashipu was very great in bodily strength, just chastised his exalted devotee son Prahlad with harsh words. Cursing him again and again, Hiranyakashipu took up his sword, got up from his royal throne, and with great anger struck his fist against the column. Hiranyakashipu just came to prove this. Where is he? Is he in the pillar? Yes. Implicit answer is yes. So Hiranyakashipu came to show that yes, I am there. As my devotee says, I am there. Then from within the pillar came a fearful sound which appeared to crack the covering of the universe. Oh, my dear Yudhishthir, this sound reached even the abodes of the demigods like Lord Brahma. And when the demigods heard it, they thought, oh, now our planets are being destroyed. While showing his extraordinary prowess, Hiranyakashipu desired to kill his own son, heard that wonderful tumultuous sound which had never before been heard. Upon hearing the sound, the other leaders of the demons were afraid. None of them could find the origin of that sound in the assembly. To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad was substantial, in other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Person of Godhead Hari exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Narasimha Bhagwan ki jai. While Hiranyakashipu looked all around to find the source of the sound, that wonderful form of the Lord, which could not be ascertained to be either a man or a lion, emerged from the pillar. In amazement, Hiranyakashipu wondered, what is this creature that is half moon and half man and half lion? Hiranyakashipu studied the form of the Lord, trying to decide who the form of Narasimhadev standing before him was. The Lord's form was extremely fearsome because of his angry eyes, which resembled molten gold, his shining mane, which expanded the dimensions of his fearful face. Mane is hair. His deadly teeth and his razor sharp tongue, which moved about like a dueling sword. His ears were erect and motionless, and his nostrils and gaping mouth appeared like caves of a mountain. His jaws parted fearfully, and his entire body touched the sky. His neck was very short and thick, his chest broad, his waist thin, and the hairs on his body as white as the rays of the moon. His arms, which resembled flanks of soldiers, spread in all directions as he killed the demons, rogues, and atheists with his conch shell, disc, club, lotus, and other natural weapons. And so we can meditate on this form of Narasimhadev, this description, complete description of the form of the Lord. Hiranyakashipu murmured to himself, Lord Vishnu, who possesses great mystic power, has made this plan to kill me. But what is the use of such an attempt? See, still arrogance. Who can fight with me? Thinking like this and taking up his club, Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord like an elephant. Just as a small insect falls forcefully into a fire and the insignificant creature becomes invisible, when Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord who was full of effulgence, Hiranyakashipu became invisible. This is not at all astonishing, for the Lord is always situated in pure goodness. Formerly, during creation, he entered the dark universe and illuminated it by his spiritual effulgence. Thereafter, the great demon Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry, swiftly attacked Narasimhadev with his club and began to beat him. Lord Narasimhadev, however, captured the great demon along with his club, just as Garuda might capture a great snake. When Lord Narasimhadev gave Hiranyakashipu a chance to slip from his hand, just as Garuda sometimes plays with a snake and lets it slip from his mouth, The demigods who had lost their abodes and who were hiding behind the clouds for fear of the demon did not consider that incident very good. Indeed, they were perturbed. When Hiranyakashipu was freed from the hands of Narasimhadev, he falsely thought that the Lord was afraid of his prowess. Therefore, after taking a little rest from the fight, he took up his sword and shield and again attacked the Lord with great force. First, he attacked him with club. Now he took up his sword and shield. Making a loud, shrill sound of laughter, Supreme Person of Godhead Narayana was extremely strong and powerful, captured Hiranyakashipu, who was protecting himself with his sword and shield, leaving no gaps open. With the speed of a hawk, Hiranyakashipu moved sometimes in the sky and sometimes on the earth. His eyes closed because of fear of Narasimhadev's laughter. As a snake captures a mouse or Garuda captures a very venomous snake, Lord Narasimhadev captured Hiranyakashipu, who could not be pierced even by the thin thunderbolt of King Indra. As Hiranyakashipu moved his limbs here, there, and all around, very much afflicted at being captured, Lord Narasimhadev placed the demon on his lap, supporting him with his thighs. And in the doorway of the assembly hall, the Lord very easily tore the demon to pieces with the nails of his hand. Lord Narasimhadev's mouth and mane were sprinkled with drops of blood, and his fierce eyes, full of anger, were impossible to look at. Licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narasimhadev, decorated with a garland of intestines taken from Hiranyakashipu's abdomen, resembled a lion that has just killed an elephant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had many, many forms, first uprooted Hiranyakashipu's heart and then threw him aside and turned towards the demon's soldiers. These soldiers had come in thousands to fight with him and with raised weapons and were very faithful followers of Hiranyakashipu. But Lord Narasimhadev killed all of them merely with the ends of his nails. The hair on Narasimhadev's head shook the clouds and scattered them here and there. His glaring eyes told the effulgence of the luminaries in the sky, and his breathing agitated the seas and the oceans. Because of his roaring, all the elephants in the world began to cry in fear. Airplanes were thrown into outer space in the upper planetary system by the hair on Narasimhadev's head. Because of the pressure of the Lord's lotus feet, the earth appeared to slip from its position, and all the hills and mountains sprang up due to his intolerable force. Because of the Lord's bodily effulgence, both the sky and all directions diminished in their natural illumination. Manifesting a full effulgence and a fearsome countenance, Lord Narasimha, being very angry and finding no contestant to face his power and opulence, then sat down in the assembly hall on the excellent throne of the king. Because of fear and obedience, no one could come forward to serve the Lord directly. Shri Narasimhadev Bhagavan ki jai.
Yeah.
Right, so beautiful. So we should pray. What do we do on Narasimha Chaturdashi? What do we pray? What should our prayer be?
Sadhana.
Okay, I'm going to share a prayer which all of you can chant every day. This is what we have to pray every day to Narasimhadev, not just today. Note this words 518.8. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Namaste Avirbhava. Vajranaka Vajradamstra Karma Shayan Randhaya Tamograsa Grasa Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Shraum. Offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Narasimhadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts. Vajradamstra, Vajranaka, nails and teeth like thunderbolts. Kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. This is the prayer. This is the prayer. This is the Hiranyakashipu in our heart. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. See, depend on the Lord, remove all the nonsense, remove the Hiranyakashipu from the heart, surrender to the Lord, and become fearless in the struggle for existence in the material world. This is required. Please chant this verse by heart, this verse, chant this every day. This is the only thing actually, because see, we are so helpless. We are so helpless, with respect to our previous conditioning, this, that, and all that. If you have a sincere desire to actually come out of all this nonsense and become perfectly situated, we have to remove these demon-like desires in our heart. And only Narasimha Dev can do that. And especially our Mayapur Narasimha is so merciful. He's so merciful. We all know about the glories of our Mayapur Narasimha Dev. So pray to him and he will shower his mercy. Very, very merciful. And then we can fearlessly tread the path of this material world and go back home, back to God at the end of this life. Holding on to, lotus feet of our Guru or Acharyas, we can just achieve perfection. But it's very important that we remove, vanquish our demon-like desires. I still see there is still, a lot of devotees are sincere, but they still have desires for material things, opulences, etc., etc. We should knock off all this, and simply by chanting this mantra every day, it will automatically happen. Of course, we should be prayerful. We should be actually asking for this. And if we are asking for it, then even if we are um, feeling helpless in our current situation, Narasimha will protect us. He'll come and knock off everything. Right? So, Krishna. 518.8. Okay, that's the verse. So you can all make a note, and it's very, very good to chant every day. Okay. So with this, I'll conclude here. If anybody has any comments, questions, please.
Pranam, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for holding this discussion on Narsim Dev. Prabhuji, one request that the way you read these words, could you please share the audio in the group so that we may know how to recite it?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll chant the
Yeah.
mantra on the WhatsApp.
Yes, yes. We don't know how to recite it, so it's a
Okay.
very good prayer.
Yeah.
So, we'll
Sure.
recite it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So one quick question. This thing has been bothering me for some time. I know we talked about, being merciful to living beings.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then in Bhagavatam or somewhere, I think even Prabhupada mentioned that, yeah, so Vrishchika Sarpa Hatya is okay. But how about mosquitoes, Prabhu? That is
Mosquito is.
very-
Can you equate mosquito and scorpion or snake? That'll give you the answer.
equate in the sense, yeah, that's their nature, right? There's no other way of
Yeah.
living for them.
Shastra says that mosquito is actually not envious like a snake. Snake is considered envious,
Correct, correct.
right? Mosquito is not envious. It's very just innocent jiva, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Our again, Vinod Prabhu, see, where is this coming? Where is this stemming from? This our why are we wanting to kill this mosquito? Because we are afraid.
Afraid in the sense, they keep biting. It becomes
Yeah, but
natural
then
since
they keep
childhood that
biting,
we
right?
just
They're
slap
biting and
and.
we are still alive.
Mhm,
They're biting and we are still alive.
mhm.
So we have to just understand seeing this. Just because we shouldn't, we are like so crazily fanatical, we are afraid that one bite of that mosquito and maybe I will end up with dengue in the hospital or something else. We should always understand if that is bound to happen, it is absolutely going to happen. You taking a bat or, putting a shield around yourself 24 hours, we cannot protect ourselves.
Right.
Something that is bound to happen is going to happen. We should understand this. We don't go crazy. It's not like we will get like host of mosquitoes and then get somebody capture all the mosquitoes in Bangalore. I will sit in a room, put them in my room, and I will sit there. No, that is craziness, right? But it's inevitable. It's inevitable. There are insects, there are things around us, something will bite. You can always put a
Mhm.
repellent, but we should not try to kill them.
Mm.
Don't go actively running behind with the bat in your hand at least, right? Okay, if there is a mosquito repellent, repellent is supposed to
Mhm.
repel. If it repels, then it's fine. If you see too many mosquitoes being killed in your house because of this, then you have to really look for something which can push away the mosquitoes outside. But we should not go crazy behind this. We shouldn't one mosquito is there, we will go behind it even either with a bat or with our own hands. I used to do this before I came into Krishna consciousness. I've killed so many mosquitoes. If a mosquito, and I used to, like tell others saying proudly, saying, see how perfect my this one is. I've killed so many mosquitoes. And I felt it was just crazy. I mean, poor thing. It doesn't even have the power to escape. If you are attacking the jiva doesn't even have power to escape.
Mhm.
It's just innocent.
Okay, so it's better be using repellents rather than.
It's better just depend on Krishna Prabhu. Don't worry about all this. I mean, yeah, you can put something which if it can push away the mosquitoes outside. Like, see, previously this that machar coil was there, no? That was actually the right solution, right? This is a
Mhm.
traditional solution, what our ancestors used to use. Mm. Right, is to put that dua, and then because of the smoke, the mosquitoes, they don't like that smell, so they'll just go out. That's all. They'll not enter the house. Simple.
Right, like cow dung cake. If you
Yeah,
burn,
yeah,
I
all
think
that,
the
all that.
repellent.
Naturally, there are so many ways by which we can
Mhm.
repel all these insects and unwanted things inside the house, which is what we
Mhm.
should try. I
Okay,
mean,
cool.
especially mosquitoes. See, cockroaches, I can still understand, right? Because they go and create havoc in the kitchen or in the puja room, and that's not acceptable, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
mosquitoes, they are not doing anything to the Lord. They are just bothering us. That's all.
Okay, bro.
Mm.
Okay, Prabhu.
Let's,
Thank you. Thanks for the
yeah.
clarity.
Otherwise, we'll become Hiranyakashipu. Okay. Anything else?
I mean, the reason I'm asking the question because during this lecture, one mosquito was bothering, and I was naturally trying to kill it. So,
Mosquito
I'm asking.
distracted you. Mosquito distracted you from hearing Narasimha Lila.
I
Powerful
mean, like
mosquito.
while Nrsinga is killing Hiranyakashipu, I'm trying to kill the
Oh my,
mosquito.
oh, yeah, oh my God. Poor mosquito. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. If you have more time in the day, you can read more of Narasimha Lila and keep your keep Narasimha consciousness as much as possible.
एक मिनट मेरे को करना देखना पड़ेगा एक मैसेज
Okay.
मिला
Okay. So if there's nothing else, we can close. श्री नरसिम्हा देव भगवान की जय, श्रीमद् भागवतम
Hare
की
Krishna.
जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, वांछा
Yeah.
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः अनंत कोटि
हरे
वैष्णव की
कृष्ण
जय, समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare
Good
Krishna.
pranam.